cycles, 9 cycles. So CQ, the old friend's net. Here in Greenville at my house, it's 34 degrees and partly cloudy. So with that, this is K4VWD, and I will stand by for calls.
Good morning, Lee. WA4LLR.
N4LQ. WB4ARK.
WB4NKL.
K4GDN.
KZ4 Bravo.
K3OS.
WF2.
W4MEC.
Okay, let me tell you what I got so far, because I think I missed one. I got LLR, LQ, and this is the sequence. LLR to LQ, to ARK, to NKL, to GDN, to KZ4 Bravo, to OS, and I think I heard Mir, to you, before Charlie, MEC. So, who did I miss?
KN4R.
Okay, Brian, you'll come after Charlie. KN4R. Anybody else? Let me see if that was to you in there after Gary. Mir, are you there? This is K4VWD. Well, I hear somebody, but maybe they're off frequency. If I got a feel.
Yeah, that was Mir.
Okay, he's off frequency a pretty good bit. I could just barely tell there was somebody in there. So, here's the sequence one more time. LLR to LQ to ARK to NKL to GDN to Bravo to Oscar Sierra to 2U to MEC to R. Anybody else? One more time. Okay, don't hear any. So, good morning to everybody. I've got a question that might generate some conversation. It occurred to me that something we haven't talked about is, and we'll pick a receiver today. We talk about an old tube type, fairly simple receiver. It's not working. What procedure do you go through to find the problem? In other words, where do you start? Where do you go second, etc.? So I'm thinking that some of you guys do that quite often. You might tell us what procedure you take to do that. And with that, we'll get started. So Dave, go ahead and start us off. WA4LLR in the group, K4VWD.
VWD in the group, WA4LLR. Well, good morning to everybody. Copying everybody quite well this morning. We've got 28 degrees, partly cloudy here in the eastern part of Yancey County. And let me say happy solstice in the group to everybody. Of course, today is the first day of winter. Shortest sunlight, longest night. Of course, the good news is after today, the days start getting longer, or the daylight hours do. And at exactly 10:27 p.m. this evening, the sun puts the brakes on as far as its southern travels and begins to get ready to head north again. So I always look forward to that particular day. As far as a receiver not working, if it's totally dead, I guess I'd start with the power supply. So that's just my 2 cents worth. Steve, down to you. N4LQ, WA4LLR.
WA4LLR, N4LQ. Well, good morning, everybody. And let's see, I want to announce that we have officially changed over to AM at night on 160. So 1864 KC, starting at 8 p.m. Last night was our first night. We just started trying it last night, and it just worked out so beautifully. We all switched over to Amplitude Modulation, and I was on the Valiant. Others were on rice boxes of different kinds and whatnot. So I'd like to put the invitation out to join us if you'd like to do some more AM. We are wide open at night. We had 7 check-ins last night, all running beautiful sounding AM, and it was a lot of fun. So drag out the old AF-68 or whatever you got that you can find that'll run AM, and if nothing else, fire up your rice box and come down and join us. 1864. Lee, your question's too broad. If any of us try to answer that to any degree of accuracy, it would take approximately 6 months, I think, to answer that. Over to you, buddy. WB4ARK, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4ARK. All right. Well, I think, first of all, I'm running the HT32B this morning, feeding HT41 amplifier, and looks like I'm putting out about 200 watts to the antenna. And it was 26 degrees here a little while ago, pretty chilly. I think I would start with power supply voltage. I don't agree with Steve's comment about how long it would take, but there are several very simple things that can be done. And one is to check the audio section. I would inject 400 cycles into the audio section, check the audio section, see if it's working okay, then move up to the IF. And if anybody's interested, we'll go through that. The next go around. So WB4NKL, WB4ARK.
WB4 ARK is WB4NKL on the Heathkit DX100B again this morning. Got a train going by, you might hear that in the background. Had 23 degrees. It looks like it's already come up to 26. It's supposed to get up to 50s, and I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward for the longer days too. Seems like it wobbles around there for a day or two before they start getting any noticeable length on the calendar. My calendar's got the day length, so there's a little wobble to it, seems like, before you notice it much. And I'll agree with the comments so far. On the receiver, I'd check the power supply if it's totally dead, and I usually start working my way back from the speaker. And like Buddy was talking about, check the audio and just keep backing up until you find where it's not working. Inject an IF signal after the audio and totally dead, it's usually an oscillator not working somewhere. So that's what I usually do here. Go ahead, George. K4 GDM. It's WB4 NKL.
WB4 NKL of the groups, K4 GDM. And good morning, everyone. It was 32 degrees here in Myrtle Beach this morning at 7:30. It's come up a little bit since then. And supposed to get into the 50s, the upper 50s, I think, today. And as far as troubleshooting receivers, I agree with Buddy. I start with the power supply and then work back from the audio. That's the way I've always done it, unless there's something else going on. If things completely dead, I agree with Buddy. And I'm on the B&W 5100B this morning, putting out about 100 watts, receiving on the HQ 300, an NC 300. And with that, I'm going to pass it on. I believe it goes to KZ4B, but if I'm not right, Lee, you straighten me out. So KZ4B, K4GDN.
Okay, K4GDN in the group. This is KZ4 Bravo. Fine business, George. I've got a doctor's appointment this morning, so I'm going to have to do my old buzzard transmission on this one because I can't stick around. I am getting closer to getting the T150 on the air, and to do that, I'm following Steve's excellent suggestion and using the MFJ 1708 Bravo SDR antenna switch, which keys the antenna when you energize the transmitter. And I had a problem getting it to work. I tried to use a single power supply, 12-volt power supply, to operate both the 1708 and power the coil of the relay that I'm using off the muting output, which I assumed was a dry isolated contact. Wrong. When I common the one side of the contact back to the power supply to use one supply, it was stuck in transmit all the time, even though you weren't transmitting. So I ended up having to have a separate isolated power supply, one for the relay, the muting relay, which also operates keys the amplifier and mutes the receiver, and I had to have a separate supply for the 1708. That made it work properly. So I'm getting close, and hope everybody has a great week. Thanks for calling the net lead. And conditions this morning, I think the band's a little short with some QS Baker, but in general, signals are quite good. So, Gary, take it away, and I'm signing on this one, 73's K3OS in the group KZ4B, clear but listening.
KZ4B, K3OS. Okay, John. 73's to you, good morning. From Hickory to everyone. I was one of the group on 160 AM last night. We did have a good time. And see if I can get the mighty Elmac here up on 160. He's got a switch position for it, as you all know. The question is, I don't think I've ever tried to tune it up there. We'll have to give that a go later on today and see how we do it. I'm running the Gonset Twins barefoot this morning, and I think I probably tried to do this the other day, and I don't know, something was wrong. I think I may have a dirty transmit-receive relay in here, which could be the issue. But anyway, she seems to be 45 watts according to my watt meter here, as I look at it, as we're operating. Not much more going on except getting ready for the holidays and family coming over Christmas Eve. So let me turn it down to Amir. WF2U, K3OS.
Oh, okay. No. Sorry I left it on CW. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Have a good morning. Chilly. And everybody sounds good. The signals are pretty strong this morning. And there is a QSB on everybody, at least 10 dB, plus minus. And running the Heathkit midgets, I call them, the Cheyenne MT1 transmitter, and a Comanche MR1 receiver. That's originally a mobile setup, but running it also with the original vintage Heathkit HB20 power supply, and putting out about 70 watts peak with a 35 watt carrier at rest. It's a controlled carrier screen modulation, just like the Heathkit DX20 to DX40 and DX60, basically the same type of modulation. The noise is very low here, and I'm running the end-fed half-wave 80-meter antenna, which resonates just around here. And we started out the morning, at least when I got up, was 26 degrees. At this moment, looking at my digital weather station here, it's 38 degrees and nice and sunny. So with that individual reports, me 20/9, Dave 30/9, Steve between 30 and 40/9, almost pegging my S-meter, Buddy about 25 over, Cliff 20, George between 5 and 8 to 5/9 plus about 5, John was 30/9, and Gary, deep USB on you between the S7 and 10/9. So pick it up, Charlie. W4 MEC, this is WFTU.
Okay, Mayor, WFTU in the group, W4MEC. Hi, good morning, everybody. And it was about 29 degrees here when the net started, and high clouds it looks like. I'm not going to say partly cloudy, but the sun's filtering through. And I'm curious, Steve, if you're going to maintain the plus or minus a couple of cycles on AM compared to sideband. I know I can get my, what was that rig, that 751 or whatever that ICOM was, and I think John had one, BBC John, I had one, and Jim, DEE, had one, and they were all 50 cycles off, so you give us holy heck on that. So if anybody has a 1980 to 1988 Ford F100 through F350 pickup truck, I have a brand new Haynes service manual for it. Doesn't even have a bit of grease on it. Brand new, still flat, the back still square. Yours if you have such a vehicle and do not have a nice service manual for it. A fellow gave me one and didn't realize it was going to be brand new. He said he had two. Well, I've got two now. Of course, my other one is more black than it is white, but with all kinds of notes in it. But this one is in perfect shape. So that's 80 to 88 Ford F100 to F350. All different variations, V8, straight six, whatever. 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive. And let's see, what was my other comment? Oh, 160. I do have a DX100B. It's out in Studio B, not hooked up yet. I also did pick up that HT50 Hammerlund from Alan, N3BJ. We met up in Asheville a week or so back and swapped it for a bunch of Arc 5 gear and a receiver. Plus, he gave me an HQ170. Now, this is the third or fourth one I've owned, and every one of them I've given away or sold. So apparently the Lord is telling me I'm supposed to own an HQ170. So now I have another one, which is nice because it matches the Hammerlund transmitter beautifully. It's a little bit, actually it's a little bit deeper and a little bit wider, so the transmitter will fit nicely on top. So once I get it going, after I get all the other stuff going, especially the nice Art 13 has been sitting in my shack, not hooked up yet. I'm getting closer. I was moving stuff around last night, buddy, and getting ready to situate everything and hook it up. And I did pick up a military 28-volt power supply. I think it's 50 amps. Runs off of AC. So I'm going to roll that over there. It's supposed to be in working condition. I actually have two now. Didn't I get one from Brian? No, let's see. I think I got one from Brian. And I got one from Carl. And the Carl one had been through his fire, but he had completely cleaned it out. And it's kind of hard to ruin one of those things with water or anything. So anyway, it's supposed to be in working condition. And I also have another one. And one of those where I'm taking to the airplane because they need it there. So the one right now, the one's that working, and the one that is working is going to be the one I'm using, and the one if the other one's not working, that'll go to the plane after I fix it. But anyway, that's the story on that. So it's a lot of different dominoes have to fall into the right spot there for just about anything to happen in my world over here. So let's see, down to Brian, KN4R in the group, W4MEC.
Okay, very good, Charlie. W4MEC in the group, KN4R, Cheryl's Ford, where it's 34 degrees, and looks clear, no wind right now. I think we're going to 57 today. Everybody sounds great, and a little bit of QSB, but no big deal. And Roger on the 1864 AM. It was a lot of fun last night, and the conditions were good. I hope they stay that way. Tonight, I'll see if I can put this globe camp on 160. Also, I was cleaning up the shack a little bit while everybody else was talking. Came across an article out of 73 magazine, 1985, about the GRC9, and it says it's super, 50 watts on 160, 80, 40, and 30. And it says it goes, even though it's supposed to be 2 to 12, it says it catches the upper portion of 160 meters, quote unquote. So we'll see after the net. Maybe I'll go down there, right? Well, no, because it's the wrong antenna. But anyway, I will see if I can, if that happens to tune down to 1864. So either way, I'll try to participate tonight. So the wife and daughter are taking 4 granddaughters all out to see the Cirque du Soleil out at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I guess they have the big tent set up out there. So that's part of their Christmas gift. So I'm going to be batching it tonight. So back up to you, Lee. K4BWD in the group, KN4R.
Okay, Brian, thank you. KN4R, this is K4VWD. Quick standby to see if there's anybody else who would like to join us. If so, please call me now. Don't hear anybody. Well, that was a good round. I appreciate the comments on the searching for getting the radio work. A little bit of conversation there. Thank you. And I don't have much else to talk about here. I'm doing all right. I got company coming the day after Christmas, but I don't have much happening between now and Christmas. And Christmas Day, I'll be by myself, but I'm going down to headquarters and have lunch. They got a Christmas dinner down there with a lot of people coming, so I'm going to go join them. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And so we'll keep her going. So Dave, go ahead. WA4LLR in the group, K4VWD.
In the group, WA4LLR. Good round. Copied everybody just fine. A little bit of, as everybody said, some QSB, but no problems whatsoever. All the vintage gear is sounding good today. As far as space weather goes, our sunspot count's 133. Solar flux index is 195, and the K is 2.33 last reported. So, with the solar flux at 195, the 10-meter band and others in that area ought to be hopping. So it'd probably be a good time to get up there and play with 10 meters. A few events on this day in history. On this day in 1898, Marie and Pierre Curie discovered radium. On this day in 2017, American astronaut Bruce McCandless passed away. He was the first person to conduct an untethered free flight in space using one of those maneuvering backpacks. On this day in 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, as a result of a terrorist bombing. On this day in 1968, Apollo 8 was launched from Cape Kennedy. That completed 10 lunar orbits and sent back some good pictures. On this day in 1958, Charles de Gaulle was elected president of France. On this day in 1945, General George Patton died as a result of an automobile accident in Germany. On this day in 1913, the New York World published the first modern crossword puzzle. And on this day in 1864, General Sherman captured Savannah on his march to the sea. So those are a few things from this day in history. N4LQ, WA4LLR.
WA4LLR, N4LQ. That was a nice round. Cliff, on the DX100, you always sound great. And I guess John's KZ4B is gone, but good luck on the T150 if you're listening. And Gary, your Gauntlets sound great here. For some reason, your signal did have a lot of real fast fading, but didn't miss a word. Sounding good. And Mir, your audio sounds pretty good on that Heathkit. Go back and listen to the recording, and I think you'll be happy with the way it sounds. And Charlie, yeah, we've got to have some tolerance on the frequency. I'm going to allow about 0.001%, if that's good enough. But as long as you're within the passband of my audio, that will be fine on AM. And I remember that whatever was that a 775 Alcom, the big beast, or a 751, but they were just invariably off 50 cycles. And you know, the Kenwood TS590, when it came out, the first version of it, they were always off 50 cycles, and everybody was hollering about it. And you could just hear a difference in pitch when somebody came on, and you get the urge to grab the RIT and just correct it a little bit, because you can, on sideband, you can tell a difference in 50 cycles. They corrected that in the TS590S. What is it? Yeah, the SD or whatever it was, but that got fixed later on. Let's see. Speaking of manuals, Charlie, I have got some manuals too. I need a home for, and I don't know if anybody would be interested in these. My son gave these to me that he got from an inheritance, but it's a TV shop, and it's a whole stack, probably a dozen of these manuals put out by Wallace. It's called Tell-Aids, and it's TV repair manuals from the 40s and 50s. And I'm sitting here looking at a Zenith, and this thing is pretty thick. Let's see, it's about 100 pages, and it's about 2 feet wide, and there's no fold-outs. I mean, the schematics are just absolutely beautiful, and they've got all the alignment instructions for each individual model of TV set. And it's interesting just looking at some of the diagrams and how to align them and so forth. But they just need a home. I can't sell them. Nobody's going to pay anything for them. So they're here. If anybody is interested in it, I can bring them to the Old Friends Net. Just let me know if you're interested, and you can have them. Again, on this, on Lee's question, I taught radio repair for 7 years at the vocational school, and the first thing we did was spend a couple of months on theory, and we made sure that they understood how a radio worked, electronic theory, Ohm's law, and understanding modulation and the difference between RF and audio and all that stuff, and of course safety, and you're dealing with high voltage, and then how to use test equipment and so forth. And we actually built a super heterodyne receiver and so forth. And then when we got into the actual repair part of it, the first thing we taught him was observation, to always observe what's going on. And if you plug it in and smoke comes out, observe that and try to figure out where it's coming from. Just look at it. When you turn it on, do you see lights? Do you hear a clicking sound? Does it sound like the speaker clicked? See, these things all tell you something. Do you hear a little bit of hum in the speaker? Put your ear on the speaker, see if you hear a hum. If you do, it might be the audio section is working. Do you hear hiss? It might mean the IF is working. Do you hear a buzzing sound, or do you hear motor boating? And so you observe all these things and try to come up with some logical, sequential method of diagnosing it. And maybe you don't even need a generator, and you don't even need to take it apart and turn the chassis upside down. You might just be able to figure it out without doing all that. So that's why I said it's such a broad question. You can't just tell somebody how to fix a radio in one transmission. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. Over to you, buddy, WB4ARK, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4ARK. All right, Steve. Well, I think Cliff was asking about WWV. We were talking about that the last time around, and found my QSL card that I got from WWV back in the day when they transferred over. I had actually gone to the site, the WWV site at Greenbelt, Maryland, in the early fall of 1966. And they had actually moved the transmitter on December 1966. So I got in just before they were going to move the transmitter, and it was a great experience. Leo gave me a great tour of the unit, took some really nice pictures, And so it was moved. They made the transition on December 1966. And I got this QSL card from the Bureau of Standards, and it's kind of a nice card. There's not much to it. Came air mail, actually, and so that's it tells about. They got a brief chronological order of the NBS frequency standard broadcast started in 1923, March of 1923 in Washington, D.C., and goes up to, it covers Hawaii. They commenced transmission in Maui, Hawaii, 1948, November 1948. And the transmitter at Washington moved to Greenbelt, Maryland in 1943, January of 43. They relocated to Greenbelt, Maryland. So that's kind of the history of some of the history of WWV. Regarding the radios testing, Steve had a very good comment about listening to the unit and getting a feel for what was going on with the unit by just listening to it. And I use that technique in servicing X-ray equipment, and that's what I taught our service engineers that came to Charlotte for training. I did that for quite a number of years and trained quite a few service engineers. Some of them stayed with the company, some of them didn't. But that was a very good way of determining what was going on with an X-ray machine just by listening to several things that would occur during the making of an exposure. So let's see what else we got here. Well, Charlie, I thought you were going to say you had found your stash of tubes when you started off about the ART-13, but be sure that your power supply does not exceed 28 volts. I like to keep mine around 24 to 26 volts. That seems to work the best, and they're capable of working on 24 volts without any problems at all. So with that, we'll turn it over to Cliff, WB4 NKL, WB4 ARK.
WB4 ARK is WB4 NKL. Well, thanks for the history. I knew about when they moved, the time frame. I didn't know exactly when they did move, buddy, but I do remember the move. Like I say, I had a little crystal set at the time that I could pick them up on, and when they moved, I could no longer pick them up. So I couldn't remember exactly when that was. I was pretty young at the time. So good deal on that. Everybody's sounding good here. The Mears Heathkits got good audio, and Gary, the Gonset twins are sounding great. And Charlie, I picked up another HQ 170. I've had several, and I always don't seem to hang on to them, but I've got another one here that I've been playing with, and this one's got a noise blanker on it. It was an option. First one I've ever had that has that, and it seems like it does a pretty good job on some types of noise. It's got the regular blanker, and then it's got an optional blanker in it too. It's got a concentric knob over there with there's two noise knobs on it. And let's see, Steve, on the TV manual, somebody probably would like to have them. I never did like to work on TVs back when that was a thing. So I thought that was a good deal when they got the flat panel TVs. I wouldn't want to go back. And that's about all I got here. Send it on around. Go ahead, George. You're sounding pretty good. The Lice transmission I copied 100%, so hopefully the band hadn't changed. K4 GDNs, WB4NKL.
WB4NKL and the group's K4 GDN. Yeah, QSB is beginning to get in there, and the band is definitely changing around a little bit. Let's see here. Make some adjustments. I agree with what
I don't hear him. Is he in there?
About radios troubleshooting. And in cases where the radio has not been turned on for some time, and we're talking about at least months, maybe years, I will generally take it out of the case and look. Just give it a good going over, looking for any immediate problems that might be real obvious. But if somebody's had it on recently, I will turn it on and listen and sniff around, see what I see, and then go from there. I've got a new toy I'm playing with. Got my Christmas present early. I got a little one of the little tiny spectrum analyzers, a little ultra, and I'm beginning to play with that. One of the things that's a little strange, it does not come with an instruction manual. You kind of learn by doing, and I'm getting there slowly. And anyway, it's kind of interesting, and it does seem to work pretty well for the price at any rate. So with that, I'm going to say 73 on this round, and I'll probably listen to the end of it. And it looks like John signed out, so Gary, it's coming to you. K3OS in the group, K4 GDN.
Yeah, you bet. K4 GDN, K3OS. Okay, Glenn, fine. I've got some, I think what some of you guys are also experiencing some very, very quick QSB here. And but I'm still copying everybody fine. I'm going to make this my last one as well. I'm going to get out and got to get my walk in here and leave some time to do some projects. It looks like a good time. Not much going on here except for Christmas Eve that I've got some software to upgrade. I've already downloaded that, and some new hardware to put in some of my music side of the shack here. So, wish everyone really happy holidays. I don't think we have Christmas Eve dinner here. I doubt I will be here on Sunday, so we'll catch everybody on next Thursday. Everybody have a great holiday. I'll pass it on to Mir. WF2U, K3OS.
K3OS and the net. This is WF2U. Yep, very good, everybody. And George was a little weaker this time than before. Still, I could copy, but went down to like between a 6 and 7. And let's see. Oh yeah, the two people I did give reports yet, at least from the previous round. Charlie, you were 25 over 9. Strong, really. I usually don't hear you this strong, so we are relatively close. But it could be just good conditions this morning. And Brian, you are 5'8" to 9 plus 10 with a QSB. And regarding the GRC9, they usually, depending on the manufacturer, most of them would go down to 1800. So it's very possible that you'll be able to go to to 1864 and use that. And I have to hook up that setup. I actually, several years ago, I used it on the old Friendset fairly consistently, and I had the little advantage that I have the original amplifier for it, which was not used in the U.S. It was used by a couple of countries in Europe, made for NATO in Germany. The LV80 amplifier, which is a pair of 12-volt filament 6146 equivalents in it, and it would put out about 35 watts carrier on AM, and it was able to put out 80 watts on CW instead of the low power of the Barefoot GRC9. So I'll dig out the cables and probably hook it up. It's time to get the cobwebs out of that setup. So anyway, the AM on 1864 last night was really fun. I heard everybody pretty well, and conditions were pretty conducive. Signals were really good. And towards the end, it got a little bit more noisy, but it was still okay by 9 o'clock. So with that, it goes to Charlie, W4MEC, and the net. This is WF to you.
Very good, Mir. WF2U, W4MEC, real good. Let's see. George was unreadable as that last transmission up here. Lee, on the receiver, I guess I'll throw my 2 cents in real quick. I always check, and especially on older tube gear, the first thing I check is the electrolytics with an ohm meter, and before I even plug it in. And if there's most receivers don't have a bleeder resistor. Transmitters do, but a lot of receivers don't. They just kind of rely on the circuitry to pull down the filters. So if you don't see a bleeder, checking the filter caps there, you see if you get the kick and you don't see anything like 50 ohms to ground or something, is a pretty good indicator that the B plus lines are not loaded down. So I always check that first. Sometimes you got to lift a leg here and there and make sure. But after that, I'd plug it in, turn it on, see what you got. You know, if you got filaments, if it's a series, if it's a, what do you call it? If it's a transformerless set and you turn it on and all the filaments and lamps light, I think Buddy mentioned that, you know that's working. But it's a system. I always look at it like a system after the power supply. Of course, the front end, the mixer, and the high-frequency oscillator. The front end is a system. The mixer and the high-frequency oscillator system. The IF is a system, and the audio is a system, and the power supply is a system. So the basic rule is troubleshooting is after the power supply has been checked out. I think the very first part of that is check the fuse. But is to split it in half, and if you hook a test, if you don't have a signal generator, if you hook a test lead to the grid of the very first IF, it should fill up the speaker and everything with all kinds of racket through the air at 455 kc, and then see if it's receiving anything on any band. And if it's working on one band, then it must be working, and it's not on others. It's you know, most of the radio is working. So you got to find out if the radio is working first, and then find out if it's working right. So, and that's about how I do it there. And it's funny that in official, when they're teaching you to troubleshoot, the very first thing they ask you to do is check the fuse. So many things just have a pop fuse. Let's see. I was watching an interesting program that I stumbled across on YouTube about this aerospace, well, just a general design engineer talking about the Apollo program
and this Artemis program. And he was pointing out some very interesting things about the new moon program that they are not doing. And he brought up a book called Why Apollo Succeeded. It was a NASA publication. And he talked about what actually work. He mentioned the Apollo 1 fire and all that. But the basic idea of what he was saying was all these guys doing the Artemis program are not doing any kind of groundwork on whether stuff will actually work or not. And one of them was, I think the ship going to the moon is going to be fueled in outer space. And he said, well, how many rockets is it going to take to fuel that thing? No one knew. And they were guessing, 5, 8, 10. One guy actually published a paper after the original question was asked, and it said 15 rockets. And then he says, well, have you ever done that before? No. So we're going to do this. They're going to design all this stuff and get it going, and they've never tested anything. He's saying, fellas, you might need to back up and study this book about how to make things work. And it was quite involved about making mistakes, finding mistakes, finding them early, like the Apollo fire, the pure oxygen versus regular air. And it was a very interesting story about basically how much this Artemis program is kind of designed by computer. So it remains to be seen what happens. So and whether they take his advice. So if you remember, the Gemini project was kind of designed to at least put 2 astronauts in space at the same time in the same capsule, and then they went on to just fire Gemini rockets up there to see if they could do the docking. If you remember all that back in the 60s, just all they were doing was experimenting and testing over and over again, and all of that built up to the final mission going to the moon. But the Artemis project, apparently, they're doing none of that. So, I hope they do, and I wouldn't want to be the first astronauts that took that trip. So we'll see. All righty, I guess no one wanted the manual, so I'll have to send it somewhere else here. Brian, down to Brian. KN4R in the group, W4MEC.
Okay, Charlie, very good. W4MEC in the group, KN4R. Well, the band's changing, but I still copied you Q5, Charlie. But anyway, hey, congratulations on getting some deals done with Alan. He's a good guy to trade with, and I hope you enjoy your Hammerlin transmitter, and maybe you got rid of a couple of Arc 5s you didn't need. So, I'm going to try to get a couple of rigs going here for 1864 AM tonight. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day and move some projects ahead. And I hope to talk to you tonight. So 73s, and back to you, Lee. K4BWD in the group, KN4R.
Okay, Brian, thank you. This is K4BWD. Well, so far, John, KZ4B, is, and Brian is KN4R. KZ4B is the only one that signed out. But it's getting close to 10 o'clock, so I'll stand by. Does anybody have any final comments? If so, call me now. Well, I don't hear any, so I guess everybody's talked out. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. I look forward to talking to you Sunday afternoon. But for the moment, we'll say 7-3, God bless, and we'll close the net. But I'll stand by one more time. Anybody got a final comment? Nope. Okay. 7-3, God bless. We'll now close the old friend's net, and thank you for being there. And I look forward to talking to you Sunday afternoon. This is K4VWD. So long.
3 WA4LR.